Commander Draz Ventari strutted across the command bridge of the Galactic Dominion warship, Inevitable Victory, his 4 arms clasped behind his back in what he considered a posture of supreme authority. The view screen showed a solitary human vessel drifting through the Orion neutral zone. "Look at it," he snorted, mandibles clicking with derision. "One ship. Alone in deep space. These humans truly are as primitive as the reports suggest." His second-in-command, Pella Knox, cleared her throat nervously. "Sir, our intelligence suggests we should exercise caution with the Earth species. They might appear technologically inferior, but nothing." Draz interrupted, waving a dismissive hand. "We've conquered 12 star systems this cycle alone. These humans haven't even colonized their own moon properly. They're soft, squishy creatures who spend more time creating entertainment than weapons." The tactical officer, Bren Loris, zoomed in on the ship. "It's not heavily armed, Commander. Minimal shield signature. Slow-moving. Probably a secret military prototype," Draz declared, his imagination running wild. "Humans are sneaky. They're testing our borders, seeing how we'll respond." "Sir," Pella insisted, "the markings on the hull. I'm not familiar with human symbology, but our database suggests those red crosses might indicate a clever disguise." Draz pounded his fist on the console. "They think we're fools. Well, we'll show them what happens when you probe Dominion space. Target their engines and weapon systems." The bridge crew exchanged uncomfortable glances. "That's an order," Draz bellowed. The weapons officer reluctantly complied. "Targeting complete. Fire." The Inevitable Victory's plasma cannons lit up the darkness of space. The human vessel never stood a chance. Its hull breached in seconds, atmosphere venting into the void along with medical supplies. Emergency pods jettisoned, carrying what appeared to be patients. Bren's voice was barely a whisper. "Sir, I've completed the database search. That was a hospital ship. The Mercy Horizon. Carrying wounded from the Proxima mining accident." The bridge fell deathly silent. "Impossible," Draz sputtered. "Why would a hospital ship be unescorted in neutral space?" "Because," Pella said quietly, "the Orion Accords protect medical vessels. All signatories, including us, agreed never to fire on ships with those markings." Draz felt his exoskeleton go cold. Are you certain?" The communications officer interrupted, her voice trembling. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission. From Earth." "Put it through," Draz ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. The message was short. 5 words that made Draz's blood freeze in his veins. "We are coming for you." Pella's face drained of color. "Commander, I strongly advise immediate diplomatic channels. We need to offer reparations, explain this was a mistake." Draz waved her off, though with considerably less confidence than before. "It's one planet against our empire. What could they possibly do? Send a strongly worded complaint to the Galactic Council?" As the words left his mouth, long-range sensors began pinging wildly. "Sir," Bren whispered, "something's happening in Earth's orbital defense grid. They're mobilizing every ship." Draz struggled to maintain his composure. "Preposterous. A primitive species with barely a dozen interstellar vessels? Let them come. We'll teach them the price of threatening the Dominion." He didn't notice how his officers exchanged knowing glances behind his back, nor how Pella quietly began backing up emergency protocols. The humans were coming. And deep down, Draz Ventari was beginning to realize he'd made a terrible mistake. #only one ship? They fired on a hospital ship. So Earth answered with a fleet of fury. #Part 2. The gathering storm. Intelligence officer Mira Calix burst onto the bridge, data tablets clutched in all 3 of her hands. The command center of the inevitable victory had descended into barely controlled chaos since the attack 6 hours earlier. "Commander Ventari," she called out, pushing past frantic officers. "You need to see this immediately." Draz barely acknowledged her, still staring at the tactical display showing the debris field that had once been the Mercy horizon. "Not now, Calyx. I'm formulating our official response to Earth. Something appropriately regretful, yet maintaining our dominance." Mira slammed her tablets down on the console. "With all due respect, sir, there won't be a Dominion left to maintain if you don't listen to me right now." That got his attention. "Explain yourself, officer." "I've been researching human military history," she said, pulling up files on the main screen. "They're not what our propaganda says they are. 3 centuries ago, they nearly destroyed their own planet in global wars. Their military doctrine is extensive." Draz snorted. "Ancient history. They've grown soft since then." "Have they?" Mira pulled up intercepted communications. "We've been monitoring their channels since the incident. Every military vessel they have is mobilizing. Reserve fleets are being activated. And sir, there are a lot of them." On screen, countless dots representing ships appeared, first dozens, then hundreds. "Impossible," Draz whispered. "Our intelligence says they have barely 20 interstellar vessels." "Our intelligence was wrong," Mira said grimly. "Or they've been deliberately hiding their capabilities. Remember the Vrexian Empire? They thought humans would be easy prey too. Now they're a cautionary tale told to hatchlings." The ship's alarms suddenly blared. A massive vessel had just dropped out of FTL nearby, the Dominion flagship. "Admiral Talmar," Draz muttered, straightening his uniform. "This is all I need." Minutes later, the imposing figure of Admiral Jex Talmar stomped onto the bridge, 4 eyes blazing with fury. "Ventari," he roared. "Do you have any idea what you've done? A hospital ship? Even our empire has standards." "It was a calculated risk," Draz began weakly. You thought? Talmar interrupted. "That's generous. The Galactic Council is in uproar. 3 neutral species have already offered the humans military support. And now our long-range sensors are picking up this." The main viewscreen shifted to show Earth's orbital space. Where there had been emptiness before, now swarmed thousands of vessels of all sizes, warships, carriers, destroyers, emerging from concealed bases on Mars, Europa, and beyond. "That's not possible," Draz stammered. "Where did they all come from?" "They've been building in secret," Mira explained, her voice hushed with fear and admiration. "For centuries. Since their first contact with alien life, they've been preparing for war while presenting themselves as peaceful explorers." Pella, who'd been monitoring communications, spoke up. "Sir, we're intercepting their fleet commands. They're not just mobilizing their Sol system forces. They're recalling ships from everywhere. The numbers suggest they have at least 20 times more military vessels than our entire Dominion fleet." Admiral Talmar grabbed Draz by the collar. "You fool. You absolute fool. They weren't weak, they were waiting. And you just gave them the perfect justification to reveal their true power." On the screen, the assembled human armada began to move as one, heading directly toward Dominion space. The storm was coming. And they had nowhere to hide, #only one ship? They fired on a hospital ship. So Earth answered with a fleet of fury #Part 3, first contact, last warning. The command bridge of the inevitable victory had been transformed into a war room. Admiral Talmar had summoned every captain in the nearby fleet, all 36 of them, which had seemed impressive until intel revealed the humans were bringing thousands. "Incoming transmission from the human fleet," announced Pella, her voice cracking with stress. "They're requesting visual communication." Talmar nodded grimly. Put them through. The view screen flickered to life, revealing not a military commander but a woman in a simple gray suit. Her dark hair was pulled back into a neat bun, and she wore no military insignia or decorations. This simplicity somehow made her more terrifying. "I am Ellie Reyes, Chief Diplomat of the United Earth Government," she said, her voice calm and measured, as if they were discussing the weather rather than the prelude to war. "I've been authorized to present our terms." Draz pushed forward. "Now listen here, Commander Ventari," she interrupted, her smile never reaching her eyes. "The adults are talking. Admiral Talmar, I presume?" Talmar stepped forward. "I am. Please understand, Diplomat Reyes, that Commander Ventari's actions were not sanctioned by the Dominion. We deeply regret is meaningless without action," Reyes stated flatly. "Here are our terms. The Dominion will surrender all personnel involved in the attack on the Mercy Horizon. You will pay reparations to the families of the 216 medical staff and patients who died when your commander decided to fire on a clearly marked hospital ship. You will cede the Orion Gateway Station to Earth Control as a strategic buffer zone." Mira Calix whispered to Bren, how did she know exactly how many casualties there were? "We haven't even completed our assessment." Draz stepped forward again. "This is outrageous. We are the Galactic Dominion, conquerors of 12 systems. We do not surrender to primitives who barely, you have 1 hour to comply," Reyes continued as if he hadn't spoken. "This is not a negotiation. It is the only path that doesn't end with the complete dismantling of your empire." The transmission ended abruptly. Draz turned to the assembled officers, mandibles quivering with outrage. "Can you believe the audacity? They think they can dictate terms to us." But the room had gone deadly quiet. A captain from the rear spoke up. "Admiral, perhaps we should consider their offer. My cousin serves on our outpost near Seoul. He says they've been observing unusual activity for years, massive shipyards hidden in asteroid belts, weapons testing beyond their Kuiper belt." "Cowardice," Draz snapped. "I won't be intimidated by apes in spacesuits." A low murmur of dissent rippled through the gathered officers. One of them stepped forward. "Sir, with respect, my crew did not sign up for suicide. If the humans have even half the fleet our sensors are detecting, are you refusing orders, Captain?" Draz threatened. Admiral Talmar raised his hand for silence. "Enough. Diplomat Reyes has given us an hour. I will attempt further negotiation while we assess our strategic position." He turned to Draz. "And you will remain silent, Commander, unless you wish to be the first reparation we offer them." As the officers dispersed, Talmar pulled Mira aside. "Officer Calix, prepare our defensive grid. Position our ships for maximum coverage. We'll try diplomacy, but I'm not a fool." 30 minutes later, as the Dominion fleet scrambled into defensive formation, the sensors went wild. "Sir!" Bren shouted. "Multiple spatial distortions. They're not just coming from the front, they're everywhere." The view screen showed the impossible. Human ships weren't just approaching from Earth's direction, they were appearing all around the Dominion fleet, emerging from what looked like tears in space itself. "Jump technology," Mira whispered in awe. "They've mastered point-to-point spatial transportation. No wonder we never detected their full fleet capabilities, they can keep their ships anywhere and deploy instantly." Admiral Talmar stared at the screens in horror as thousands of human vessels surrounded them, appearing out of nowhere like a closing fist. The comm system activated again. Ellie Reyes appeared, still wearing that same terrifying smile. "I see you've chosen the hard way," she said pleasantly. "Very well. Only one ship?" "They fired on a hospital ship." So Earth answered with a fleet of Fury #Part 4, the fleet of Fury space itself seemed to bend and distort as the human fleet materialized from all directions. The Dominion's 36 warships, once considered a formidable battle group, now looked pathetically small against the thousands of Earth vessels surrounding them. "Tactical assessment," Admiral Talmar demanded, his voice barely audible. Bren's hands trembled as they flew across the console. "Sir, we're outgunned approximately 50 to 1. Their weapons are. Sir, they're not even weapons we've seen before. Energy signatures suggest they're running on technologies we classified as theoretical." On the main view screen, the human armada moved with frightening precision. No wasted motion, no scattered formations. They flowed like predators who had rehearsed this kill 1,000 times. "They're not firing," Pella noted with surprise. "They could have obliterated us the moment they arrived." Mira Calix nodded grimly. "Because this isn't about destruction for them. It's about justice." Commander Draz Ventari, who had been uncharacteristically silent, suddenly laughed, a hollow, broken sound. "I understand now," he said, staring at the massive human fleet. "We got it all wrong. We thought they were weak because they focused on medicine instead of weapons, on saving lives instead of taking them." He turned to face his fellow officers. "But that's exactly what makes them so terrifying. They value life so highly that when you take it from them unjustly." He gestured to the overwhelming force surrounding them. "This is what happens." A series of precise, targeted strikes suddenly disabled the weapon systems of every Dominion vessel. Not a single life was lost, but they were effectively neutered. "All ships report weapons disabled," Bren confirmed. They could have done this at any time." Admiral Talmar closed all four eyes briefly. "Open a channel to Diplomat Reyes." When the human appeared on screen, Talmar spoke without preamble. "We surrender unconditionally and accept all terms. I only ask that my crews be spared." Reyes nodded, still maintaining that unnerving calm. "Acceptable. Prepare to receive boarding parties." 3 days later, a solemn ceremony was held aboard the human flagship Guardian. Representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations gathered as Earth unveiled the Mercy Horizon Protocols, a new set of galactic laws with severe consequences for any violation of medical neutrality. Commander Ventari, awaiting his war crimes tribunal, was permitted to attend under heavy guard. "I still don't understand," he whispered to Mira, who had been granted clemency for her efforts to prevent the conflict. "If they had this kind of power all along, why hide it? Why pretend to be weaker?" Mira gestured toward a separate hangar they passed. Inside, glimpsed only briefly through closing doors, loomed weapons of a scale and design that made even the impressive fleet look like toys. "Because," she said quietly, "what we saw wasn't their fleet of fury. It was their fleet of restraint." As the doors sealed shut, Draz caught sight of a plaque on the wall, "Project Lazarus, Planetary Resurrection Technology." He suddenly understood the horrifying truth. The humans hadn't built their armada to destroy other civilizations. They had built it because they knew how to rebuild worlds from ashes, and were determined that no species should ever need such terrible knowledge again. They weren't just protectors. They were the guardians of life itself.